Okay, folks. Yeah, this is a bit of a surprise, isn't it? um, I haven't. Well, as you probably could tell, I haven't done a live stream like this in a while. So you're probably looking at the topic of the video, and you're probably thinking, "Wow, what a weird topic to kind of start out with on a live stream." And yeah, you'd be right. You'd be right about that. It's it's kind of like I said, it's kind of strange to do a live stream again from my room, and seeing as though I haven't, the only live streams I've done lately are my gaming streams, and that's about it. First of all, I hope you're having a good Easter weekend, traveling and everything, getting ready. So, hopefully you guys had a good weekend so far, or having one. But yeah, I'm here to discuss the CW series Riverdale. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Don't get me wrong. When Riverdale first came out, like a lot of people, I was all for it. I thought it was a unique concept that they were going with. Um, I like the fact that they threw in the references here and there of classic Archie stuff. So I was thrilled with that. I was cool with that, and I would catch a little bit of After the Buzz, Screen Junkies, and mostly Black Nerd Andre Meadows to kind of get caught up and kind of see what's going kind of get caught up and find out what's going on. Sometimes I would even watch some clips here and there, stream, kind of uh, not stream, but skim through it a little bit to kind of get an idea of what's going on. I think I did see a majority of the finale. In fact, I did see a majority of the finale. I DVR'd it, and I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. And especially the fact that they ended the season on a cliffhanger. I thought was nice too. Oh, I thought it was nice too. So, it was nice to see that. Um, but lately, from what I've noticed, people still talk about Riverdale. They're still doing afterthoughts, reviews, recaps, but not as much anymore. I mean, Andre, I think even said that even though he still watches it, he's just lost interest or something, or basically along the lines that Andre has just not been up to doing recaps anymore. I mean, he was doing them at the start of the season, and then he just dropped off. I think because of the fact that just so much was going on, and of course he has other things he's doing that he just hasn't had time to probably properly sit down and just give his thoughts on Riverdale. I'm sure, if not maybe certain, in my opinion, and Andre, if you're watching, I'm kind of certain that he may make up for that at the end of the season. I'm thinking come May, he's going to make up with that by giving us an overall recap on season 2, which right now is the only other season that Riverdale has, because there's been no announcement yet of a season 3. We don't know if that's going to happen or not. Um, because it sounds like, from what I'm reading on Wikipedia with all the episode titles and everything, is, from what I understand, is the schedule is correct here. May 16th is going to be the last episode, as far as we know. Excuse me. It's going to be the last episode. It's going to be the last chapter, if you will. Now, from what I've read, a lot has gone on lately in the Riverdale series. Let me see if I can read off a few things here. Okay, so the furthest that Andre got, as far as I know, when it came to doing recaps, um, the furthest that Andre, a Black Nerd Comedy, came was up to episode 5, which would have been chapter, uh, which basically was episode 5, which would have been, let's see, 14, 15, 16, 17, which would have been chapter 18, as far as we know. Would have been chapter 18. That's the furthest Andre got. I don't know if he did chapter 19, which is the 6th episode of season 2. I don't know. But a lot has gone down. Um, we find out that we find out that the Black Hood is a vigilante kind of guy. That he just wants to kill and be rid of all the sinners in Riverdale. Now, overall, from what I understand here, he's threatened to kill Betty's sister, and Betty's sister has actually run off. She's run off in fear for her children because of this Black Hood. This Black Hood obviously has connections, and I think that's what happens. He obviously has connections and stuff, so and has connections and stuff. So, this Black Hood is very manipulative to kind of get what he wants, or get done what he wants. And it seems that he has a connection with Pops. He has a connection with Pops because as we get later on down the line, the Black Hood basically says that Riverdale failed his challenge, whatever that challenge is, and Pop basically says that the reckoning is upon them. Now, before this, one of the other things that we found out, and again, again, at the time that Andre stopped doing his reviews, they started introducing this drug substance called Jingle Jangle. So anyway, long story short, we find out who the actual supplier is. His name is the Sugar Man, and we find out that the Sugar Man is Robert Phillips. I don't know who that is, but what happens is he's exposed. Is not only does Cheryl reveal who he is, and she tells Betty, who exposes him in the Blue and Gold, which is the school newspaper. Phillips is not only arrested, but he's shot in jail by the Black Hood. So, wow. We also find out, and again, I think this is as far as Andre got. Archie puts together his own group, I think called the Red Circle, which is a reference to one of the comic book divisions at Archie. So he puts together the Red Circle, and he puts that group together to try to hunt down the Black Hood, even at Hiram's encouragement. Josie gets a little bit more involved in the season. She gets weird messages from a secret admirer, implied to be Cheryl. This is according to Wikipedia, including a box of a pig's heart. Her mom, the mayor, gets on her for coming home late, even revealing she's received death threats. Betty, of course, is still kind of being Betty. A little bit of that dark Betty still is in there. And you get evidence throughout that there is that dark side, because what happens later on is very intriguing from what I've read here. But Betty thinks at first, so her first suspect to who the Black Hood could be is the sheriff, but he's able to provide proof that, hey, it's not me. But here's the interesting tidbit. Excuse me. Here's the interesting tidbit. The sheriff, Kevin Keller's dad, is having an affair with Mayor McCoy, Josie's mom. Now, we also find out about 8 episodes into this, which would be, I think, what was it? 18, 19, 20, 20, which would be chapter 21. FP, Jughead's dad, is released from jail, and he begins working at Pops, intending to quit the Serpents. That's according to what I'm reading here on Wikipedia. Now, we also find out that when we get to this part, that Jughead and Betty want to throw FP a retirement party because, FP wants to get away from the Serpents. So they enlist Archie and Veronica to do detective work. While Jughead retires to reconnect with his dad, Betty goes to the White Worm to organize that party that they want to throw. Betty ends up meeting Tony of the Serpents, asks her to keep watch over Jughead. Archie and Veronica, doing the detective stuff, follow a lead to a past serial killer called the Riverdale Reaper, who murdered a family of 4 before being killed himself by a lynch mob. They find out their investigation leads them to discover there was a fifth member of the family, which they discovered to be the school's janitor, Joseph Joseph Sevison, if you will. Uh, it's not Swanson, it's Sevison, Joseph Sevison. Now they confront the janitor, Joseph. He says he's not the Black Hood. FP is not happy with Jughead when he finds out he had Peabody, so he decides to stay with the Serpents. Um, Veronica breaks up with Archie following a discussion about love. Jughead, not wanting to bring Betty into the Serpents, breaks up with her. So, yeah. Their relationship came to a halt at chapter 21, the 8th episode. But that doesn't last long because basically in chapter 22, the 9th episode, Fred, Archie's dad, ends up getting a bill for $86,000 from the hospital. His parents don't, he tries to get his parents to help him, but they won't. Veronica finds out that her dad bought Pops. She's able to convince him to stop hiding secrets and help Fred. Jughead rallies the other serpents who kidnap Peabody and cut off his serpent tattoo. Betty and Veronica receive a box from the Black Hood containing Sevison's finger. Then they receive a call from the Black Hood who challenges them to find Sevison. They're able to find Sevison's location, but instead find an empty coffin. A Black Hood then arrives to try and force Betty into burying Archie alive, but flees when the police arrive. After, and then basically Sheriff Keller shows up, kills the Black Hood before the Black Hood could escape, and then they reveal the Black Hood to be Sevison himself, the janitor himself. So with the Black Hood dead, Veronica and Archie get back together. Betty throws all her findings surrounding Sevison away, but she keeps the hood he gave her earlier, so keep that in mind. And that's one of those things about Betty's character in Riverdale, which I will admit, even into this season, even though I haven't caught up with it or haven't been paying much attention, is intriguing. And a lot of people have found it intriguing. The fact that she keeps the Black Hood of the Black Hood. So that's kind of intriguing because that kind of tells you there's a bit of that dark Betty that's there. Now, here's where trying to think here. Here's where it kind of gets in. I think this is where things kind of get a little off track for Riverdale. Not story wise, maybe, but more along the lines of longevity for the season. Because one thing about this season that some people kind of question was the length of the season. You see, this season is 9 episodes longer than the last season. The initial season was only 13 episodes. This here, from what it looks like, is 22 episodes. So you're 9 episodes longer. Now, I understand that if you're doing a series like this, sort of in a chapter book style, like with a chapter book kind of style scenario, that sometimes when it comes to chapter books, one chapter usually is longer than the other. And I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that one chapter is usually longer than the other. It's kind of like with movies. When you're doing like a trilogy or a, a foursome of movies, they usually one or two are going to be longer than the original movie that started it. You know, like let's say the original film is 2 hours long. The following movie could be 30 minutes longer or an hour longer. So it's kind of understandable that maybe chapters in television series like Riverdale are going to be shorter or longer than the last. In this case, this one's a little longer. And again, this is where I think this kind of hurts Riverdale a little bit. Is the fact that I think a lot of people are okay with just the 13 episode run. I mean, they would have been great if we did another 13 episodes. And from what I can tell, just looking here on Wikipedia, trying to look here on Wikipedia, I know it says it here somewhere. It wasn't straight through, I know that. Sometimes they skipped a week or two or something like that, but I know it wasn't straight through, believe me. Yeah, March 9th. March 9th to March 30th is the longest break they've had. And it's essentially about 21 days. So people are acceptable to that. Now, you might say, well, why is that so bad? Well, you see, the breaks here are almost a month long. Now, I'm not saying that isn't good. I'm not saying that isn't good, but the breaks are about a month long. But usually it's just one break. People became so accustomed to that one 21 near month long break that they would think, just 1 month is going to be okay. Instead, you're going to end up having two. As of this past week, you're now having a second break, month-long break almost, between episodes. Now, I understand that sometimes filming, post-production, all that still needs time to happen. But still, it's like, it's like, really? I mean, some people could probably understand if you do like that 20-day break, and that's fine. But here, with the upcoming one, you're doing from what? Now to April 18th? That's 20 days, I admit, but still, it's like, really? The point is, I think what's hurting it is the fact that it's a longer season and you're taking more than just one break. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong, but there are some people that even said during the live recap on After the Buzz TV that this season of Riverdale is just all over the place. It's like you can't decide whether or not it wants to be straightforward, confusing, totally out there. They don't know. Anyway, basically you get about a month long break. And what I mean by a month long is December 13th to January 17th. And as we get into the second act of the season, you basically have the Lodges striking up a deal with Mayor McCoy for land, which involves shutting down Southside High, causing Jughead, Tony, and Sweet Pea and the other serpents to transfer to Riverdale High, putting them at odds with the students. Archie is approached by an FBI agent named Adams, who wants to help on finding proof of Hiram's criminal dealings. Archie agrees to do that in exchange for immunity for Veronica and his dad. Archie investigates Nick Sinclair, who implies that Hiram was behind the car crash, which broke both of his legs. Despite Hal's objections, Betty and Alice track down Alice's son, who she gave up for adoption, Cheek. Cheek initially refuses to come with them, but Betty returns to his residence and saves him from an assault, bringing him to the Cooper household. Jughead follows advice from his dad, gets his fellow servants to lay low. Archie reveals to Adams that he secretly doubts Joseph Swenson, the janitor, was really the Black Hood, and that Cheek that night lurks into his sister's room. And you notice I did sister right there. And then later on, Prickens Day happens, and this is chapter 24, episode 11, which is a day in remembrance of the Riverdale which is a remembrance of the Riverdale founder. Here we have Archie trying out for the wrestling team to impress Hiram, who's also a former wrestler. Betty learns that Cheek is a webcam model and attempts to reach out to him. Jughead interviews Tony's grandfather for a school project, learning that he's a member of a Native American tribe which was slaughtered by Pekins. Jughead publishes the story, escalating tensions with the two sides. At the Prickens Day Fest, the Serpents protest the event, but Hiram spins the words positively. That night, Archie meets Hiram, who offers him his business tutelage, which Archie accepts. Next morning, Mayor McCoy, Sheriff Keller, and the Lodges meet at the statue of Prickens, which has been decapitated. Yeah. That was just episode 11, chapter 24. Chapter 25, you have Veronica's confirmationeers, which, let's see, that's what I think it is. It's kind of a Catholic deal. No offense, it's a Catholic situation. Bringing many large members and businesses associates to Riverdale, was serving at a poker game with Hiram and his associates. Archie learns that Hiram is a mobster, and his associates are planning his removal after Veronica's confirmation. Archie alerts Hiram to this, and Hiram later arranges that mobster's death. Meanwhile, Mayor McCoy orchestrates the eviction of all serpents from the trailer park. Jughead and Betty are alerted to the location of the Prickens head by a scrapyard owner who gives them evidence that Tallboy decapitated the statue. Jughead and FP put Tallboy on trial, who reveals that Hiram insisted him launching a mutiny so that Tallboy could remove FP and Jughead from the serpents. Betty and Jughead get back together. A strange man comes to the Cooper house asking for Cheek. Later, Betty returns home to find Alice cleaning up the man's blood. Betty and Alice, and that is chapter 25. Chapter 26, It goes like this. Betty and Alice clean up the man's body and dispose of it with the help of Jughead and FP. Jughead sends the Prickens statue head to the lodges, which Hiram believes may be a declaration of war. Mayor McCoy attempts to take control of her deal with the lodges, and the lodges prepare to expose her affair with Sheriff Keller. Veronica, however, warns her of this, and McCoy resigns from office. Agent Adams attempts to strong-arm Archie into giving him the information, including blackmailing Archie in order for him to plant a bug in Hiram's office. Archie instead reveals this to Hiram. Hiram's driver takes Archie to a private location to meet the boss, revealed to be Hamona, Veronica's mom. I can't pronounce the name right now. Hamona. Harmona tells Archie that Adams is actually one of the lodge's capos, and it was a test which Archie has passed. Oni welcomes Archie to the family. And that's the end of 26, episode 13. 27. Hiram suggests Archie, Veronica, Betty, and Jughead to go to the lodge's lake house for a romantic getaway. Cheryl's upset for not being invited, calls Jughead and informs him of Betty's kiss with Archie, which causes tension within the group. Jughead and Veronica kiss to level the playing field. Later, the girls go into town while the guys have a discussion over the close mutual bonds between the four. Back in Riverdale, Josie informs Kevin of the parents' affair. Cheryl reveals to Tony that she had a friendship-turned-lesbian relationship broken up by Penelope. At the lake house, tensions arise again when Jughead and Betty learn that Hiram bought the trailer park and the Riverdale registry. A group of men that Veronica interacted with in town break into the house, but Veronica activates a silent alarm. One of Hiram's men arrives and kills one of the intruders, and the four return to Riverdale. That's the end of chapter 27, episode 14. Now, episode 15, chapter 28, you have this. Jughead keeps investigating the lodge's plans, but he cannot use what he finds. Hiram and Hamona want Fred to run for mayor, including financing his run. Hal asks Alice for a divorce, and Polly comes back to Riverdale. Clifford's secret will is read, which entitles money to anyone of Blossom's blood. Clifford's twin brother Claudius returns. Chick refuses the DNA test, but Betty steals his dental floss to do her own test and discovers that Chick is not who he says he is, or Chick is not who he says to be. After Smithers points Jughead to Shankshaw Prison, FP's inside contact allows them to learn the truth about the lodge's plans. They want to turn Southside High into a private prison, and the housing Fred is building will be for the employees of the prison. After the lodges are forced to tell Fred he refuses to run for mayor, so Hamona announces she'll run instead. Archie undergoes a blood ritual with Hiram, pledging loyalty. Meanwhile, Claudius and Penelope plan to get the house in order, including Nana and Cheryl, who overhears the plan. All right. The next one after that is chapter 29, episode 16. It says Jughead learns Southside High will be turned into a prison and goes on a hunger strike to protest. Hiram accelerates the timeline for demolition, but the high school serpents chain themselves to the school. Fred attempts to end his contract with the lodges, leading to a legal dispute. Hiram asks Archie to cut the serpent's chains, which Archie does in exchange for Fred being released from his contract. Betty learns Chick's father is not Hal. Penelope and Claudius attempt to kill Nana. Penelope and Claudius attempt to kill Nana Rose, but she survives. Veronica runs for student president, and Jughead considers running against her. Betty moves in with Jughead to avoid Chick. Cheryl tells Penelope she knows what she did, leading to Penelope to get Cheryl committed, free of his contract with the lodges. Fred announces he is running for mayor against Hamona. And now, the more recent one, which was chapter 30, episode 17. Hamona's run for mayor is considered risky by fellow mobsters Kowalski and Martin, believing it may lead to unwanted investigation. They demand a 25% cut of the prison's profits, which Hiram refuses. Kowalski and Martin, however, turn to Hiram's capo Adams into hospitalizing Andre, leaving the lodges short-handed on security. Archie scares the two into abandoning the deal with the help of Reggie and other Riverdale athletes. Meanwhile, the car belonging to the man Chick killed is found. The owner of the car demands $10,000 from the Coopers to prevent him from going to the police. But Jughead and the Serpent scare her away. Alice sends Chick away and apologizes to the Serpents for her years of bad-mouthing them. Tony and Veronica discover that Cheryl has been admitted into conversion therapy, and with the help of Nana Rose, find out that she is at Sister of the Quiet Mercy. Tony and Veronica and Kevin rescue Cheryl, and Tony and Cheryl kiss. Cheryl soon returns to Riverdale High, which she declares will burn. So that's the end of chapter 30. So basically, that's as much of what's been going on with Riverdale Season 2, according to what I read off here on Wikipedia. Now, this is the last episode until April 18th, because they're going to take a 20-day break, makes it almost a month. And the next one is going to be chapter 31, which will be called A Night to Remember. And this will be the start of the third and final act of season 2. And this episode is supposed to be a musical event covering songs from Carrie the Musical. Yeah, they did a Carrie musical, believe it or not. Who knew? But yeah, they're going to do a musical event covering songs from Carrie the Musical. Now the question will it be an hour? Will it be 2 hours? We don't know. Probably just be an hour. Because it's covering songs from Carrie the Musical. So who knows? Then following that, on April 25th, you're going to have chapter 32, which is Prisoners. Following that, on May 2nd, you're going to have chapter 33, Shadow of a Doubt. On May 9th, you're going to have chapter 34, Judgment Night. And then the final chapter, as far as we know it, chapter 35, which would be the 22nd episode here, is called Brave New World, and that airs on May 16th. So yeah, it looks like a lot of interesting things are happening. On Riverdale Season 2. But you can kind of tell what people are kind of getting confused a little bit. It's like, what is this, like with Cheryl? It's like, what is this whole situation to what is this whole, oh, she used to be in a near lesbian relationship until her mom broke it up? Where did that come from? I mean, there's a lot, and I think, so there's that. There's things like, Archie being loyal to Hiram through a blood ceremony. There's now questions whether or not, and there are still things in there that made Riverdale on its initial season good, but there are some things that are kind of like, as you can tell, people are saying it's kind of all over the place. And I think when you're doing a longer season, a season that's 9 episodes longer than the previous one, I think that kind of happens because you're trying to basically get a lot out there, and you're throwing a lot of people kind of for a loop, um, if you will. I mean, now you're bringing in the whole Native American situation and the history they've had with and the history Native Americans have had with the founder of Riverdale, Prickens. So that's interesting, but it's I think some people they'll look at that like why didn't we get evidence of this in the first season, but now suddenly you're bringing it up. It's stuff like that. So and just a lot of stuff here that it sounds good. It does sound like Riverdale is on the right track right now. It really does. It sounds like it's on a good track. It's like, it makes you want to tune in. But again, you can kind of tell what people are a little confused. They're a little like, okay, why didn't you bring this up last season? Now you're bringing it up here. Now we find out that Clifford had a secret will, and that will says anybody with Blossom blood is entitled to the money. And now all of a sudden you have his twin brother show up. So, stuff like that. Um, you break up Betty, Archie, and Veronica for what, about a week, and you put them back together. You may have had Alice. We don't know what happened here with Alice in the sky. We don't know if Cheek killed him, Chick killed him. We don't know. We may have, according to what some of the synopsis says. It looks like now you're having something going on between Penelope and Claudius, like maybe they're together. I mean, again, there's a lot of interesting things that have made Riverdale good in the past. But again, there are stuff that, like I said, just seem a little out there. It's like, it's like, okay, this is interesting, but in exchange, it's like, but now you're suddenly bringing this into play. Hey, like, what was this? What was that? When you should have brought it in originally, and now you're bringing it in here. It's like, like with the what is it? Sisterhood of the Quiet Mercy, not Mary, but the Quiet Mercy. You know, you mentioned you mentioned that Shell's sent there was admitted into conversion therapy. Conversion therapy, and that's why she's at the Sister of the Quiet Mercy. So you decided not to bring this up in the first season. Isn't that that's why possibly Polly was sent there? There was something about her besides the pregnancy or something. Again, there are some good things, and there's some things that are making people go like, okay, where was this the last time? You find out about Agent Adams, and you're thinking, okay, this guy looks like he could. We get introduced to. I think we not get introduced, but we meet up with Agent Adams again. I don't know. I gotta look at this. Go look into season 1 still, and basically you find out that Adams has been associated with the lodges the whole time. Um, It's like, okay, stuff like that. Um, you find out that, what is it? Let's see. Um, it sounds like basically it's you got so many plot points going on, so many story plots going on all at once that I can see honestly where people are like, yeah, this sounds great, it sounds interesting, but it's also kind of confusing. It's like to them, it's like you're putting a lot of the focus and criminal spotlight possibly on the lodges and possibly Alice and all them, but on the lodges, like a question, because because they're associated with the mob, and it's associated. It's like again, to me, it makes me want to tune in and watch and see and kind of it makes me want to tune in and watch on the 18th. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, just like anybody else, like, really? You know, now you're doing this? I mean, it's like, it's cool that they're trying to give character growth to Cheryl even more than what she's had before. So that's good. But now you're going to emphasize that by doing an adaptation of Carrie the Musical. That you're basically going to do your own episode adaptation and remake or whatever, or self parody or self satire on Carrie. Okay. You have Fred running to run for mayor against Hamona, because now he's free of his contract with them. It's like, again, it makes me want to tune in and watch. But I can see why people kind of like, yeah, it's still good. You have to tune in and watch it. But I can also see why people are a little confused by it. It's like I said, with the Native American situation with the Riverdale founder, it's like you couldn't bring this up when the Southside Serpents were brought up originally. You couldn't bring it up then, and you couldn't bring up Cheryl possibly being lesbian, if you will, in the first season. You decided to bring it up here. Well, you quite probably hinted at it, but probably hinted at it. I mean, the fact that she had freaking Betty and Veronica kiss each other in the very first episode. So again, I can kind of see where some people are still intrigued. They will still watch, like Andre of Black Nerd Comedy. He will still watch, but it's like I can kind of see where people kind of have a falling off of. Oh, you know what? We'll just wait till the season's over, maybe to recap. I can probably see maybe that's what Andre's going to do because it's just so much. It's just so much, and you want to just basically take it all in best you can to the point that when you're ready to talk about it, you'll have what you need. You'll have that information inside of you, or you'll be able to process that information to kind of give a decent seasonal recap on Riverdale. So, but yeah, Riverdale is kind of all over the place. And again, what I read here makes me want to go back to watching it again, or at least keep tabs on it. but another part of me is like, I understand now why some people like it's all are kind of confused about why, you know, are kind of like the kind of like I said, they're kind of confused. It's like, okay, it's nice you're keeping up with the status quo of what made the series good in the first place, but now all of a sudden you're bringing in all these other elements that you should have introduced or hinted at or acknowledged or referenced in the first season. Now you're just suddenly bringing them out of the blue. I'm just saying. So, it's like now you're suddenly just bringing them out of the blue, and from what it looks like from the viewership over the past several weeks, viewership is kind of dropped. And I can understand you getting towards the summer, the spring, you're into spring, into summer, it's going to happen. And that happened with the first season, but the first season, that was the first season. That was probably going to happen anyway. It's probably going to happen anyway. Um, but the second season is supposed to be a follow-up season, and that's slowly dropping off, and you're not even done yet. It's like when you got to the 13th and final episode of season of the first season, that had 0.96 million viewers, which is good. But here, you're going basically from what you started, which was what? 2.34 million to essentially, as of last week, 0.96. You dropped off by a week by 20 million viewers. And that's not good, especially with the fact that you have you have 5 more episodes to go. Now, can they pick it up? Possibly. The musical episode will probably help them. But still, it's like, that's not good, especially when you're getting towards that last season. I mean, let's see how good they did after the break. The break, they went up by the last episode, after the last episode before the first break, had 1.43 million viewers. The episode after the break had 1.44, and then it dropped again. It went to 1.39, 1.34, 1.28, 1.26, 1.19, 1.16, and then recently 0.96. So that's not good, especially when you're going into the last 5 episodes of your series, if you're a current season. Because if you're planning to do another season, then you need to figure out, okay, what we did wrong here, what did we do wrong here, and what can we improve on? And I think one of the things they did wrong was extend the season for a long time. Riverdale to me is a series that's a seasonal series. That's what it is. It is basically a seasonal series that you start a new year off with, or you run during the summer or during the spring or spring and summer. That's when you run it. You run it either at the start of the year, which they did with the first season when it initially began, or you start running it around mid-spring or the start of spring into summer, because that way you have the viewership you need. You have the opportunity, to grab people's interest, if you will, and you don't have to worry about people getting bored or getting tired or anything, because you just keep on going and going and going. It's like I understand you want to turn Riverdale into a regular ongoing series, but a lot of people looked at Riverdale and they're like, yeah, it's great if you do this once in a while, like every new year. At the start of every new year, you do the next season, because the longer the break, the more the anticipation. And if you just do it for that season and then you wait up till the next year to do the other one, it works because people are going to want to see it. People are going to want to see it, but yeah, I think that's why the viewership is slowly dying down. It's like It's still up there. It's still decent. And the musical, A Night to Remember, which is chapter 31, the 18th episode, could probably help them out. Will probably help them in a major, major way. But, they need to start picking up the pace. They need to really start picking up the pace. And again, if they're going to do a third season, they need to realize, okay, what did we do wrong and how can we fix it? And I think the one thing they can do to fix this is to take Riverdale back to what made it good. And that's just do it at the beginning of every year. Let it run up until May of that year. Let it end. Put it in reruns. Let it go onto Netflix. And then wait till the following new year to bring in the new season. It's like, because it's like if you're going to treat this series like a novel, like a chapter book, if you will, or a novel that goes by chapters, with every episode being a chapter, then what you need to do is look at it as such. You need to visualize it as such. You need to be like, okay. Riverdale is like a novelization. We need to bring it out every now and then. Because let's take a look. How many months are in between May and January? Not going from May to January, the new year. There's, what is it? There's June, July, August, September. It's June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. You got 7 months, 6 to 7 months in between. That's enough time. You got a half a year in between to build anticipation for the next edition, for the next season, for the next novel to come out, if you will. And that's how Riverdale needs to be treated. You can't just spur out this whole novelization within the span of just a couple months. I know you're thinking, well, Brian, they waited from June, July, August, September, October. That's about almost a half a year, right? In a sense, yeah. June, July, August, September, October, that's 5 months. Yeah, it's almost a half year. I'll give them that. But I think initially that's what's hurting them. Because the last episode of season 1 was on May 11th. The other one was 5 months later, literally 5 months later. So I think in a way, Riverdale is still sounds like it's a good series that I would like to tune in and watch. But I think what's kind of, killing the viewership in a sense and kind of confusing people and kind of making people kind of turn away from it for a little bit but go back to it is the fact that you're not treating it the way that they believe you initially wanted to treat it. I mean, if you would have said, okay, we're going to end the first season on May 11th and then the new season is going to be on January 11th, 2018, they would have been more for that. And even if you went the 22 episode route, they would have been more for it. They would have. But, a lot of people look at the fact that you didn't do that. That they didn't do that. And instead, they want to go with not just the chapter route, they want to go with the act route. They want to go with, okay, October 11th to December 13th, that's the first act. January 17th, wait, hold on. Let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, January 17th to March 28th, that's the second act. And now the final and third act is April 18th to May 16th. It's like you're going away from that whole, chapter, kind of treating this like a special kind of series that in a way is set like in an alternate universe of Archie and all that from, is set in like an alternate universe from the Archie that some people know. You're treating it more like a special occasion, a special series, which there have been a lot of series in the past that have done this. There have been series that, like I said, have been seasonal series. And a lot of people looked at Riverdale as being like that, possibly. And that's why I think the viewership's kind of dying down. It's like, yeah, the musical episode's going to probably bring it back up. But in a sense, you need to basically bring it back to its roots. You need to make it basically what it was that made it good. I'll give you a good idea. Irate Gamer, Chris Brones, is bringing back the Irate Gamer, but he's bringing it back not just a little differently, kind of like softly retconning it and rebooting it. He's not just doing that, but he's going back to the roots of what made Irate Gamer good to begin with, made it fun to begin with, for not just him, but for the viewers. And to me, that's what they need to do here. They need to bring Riverdale back to its roots and say, you know what? Let's not treat this like a regular series. Let's treat this like a seasonal series. Let's go with the fact that let's say for the fact that if they do a third season, that they wait till January. They don't rush into the third season for an October release. That instead they wait till January to do that third season and make that third season shorter. Make that a 13 episode season like you did the first season. So that way people will be like, oh, good. People will be like, is Riverdale come back? And when you finally do bring it back at the beginning of the year, people are like, oh, let's see what they got in store for us next. Again, I'm not saying this season isn't good. I think it's just the longevity of the season is what's getting to people. And that's why some people are still, they're like, again, you still have the fans. You still have a huge chunk of amount of viewers and fans, which is good. But I think what's throwing them off is you're trying to do so much in just one season. And if this is the only other season of Riverdale, then that's understandable. But if you're planning to do another season down the line, then yeah, you have to really think about how you're going to handle this. You got to really think about, okay, how do we handle this? How can we keep people's investments in this? Stuff like that. So yeah, it's like, I understand, where they're coming from with wanting to maybe cram a lot of stuff in to one season, especially if it's going to be the only other season. But if you're planning to do another season, you could have saved some of this for that season. You could have saved Cheryl Blossom's revelation of being sort of a lesbian, if you will. You could have saved that for season 3. You could have built and built and built slowly the whole suspicion on the lodges and what they're doing and their connection with the mob. You could have done that. You could have built and built to the debut of the twin brother of Clifford. You could have built to that. You could have built to the whole thing with the Native Americans and what Prickens did to them. Prickens, the founder of Riverdale, what he did to them and stuff. You could have built to that slowly. You could have hinted at that slowly if you wanted to do a third season, if you would have stayed true to the roots of what made Riverdale good initially. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens afterwards. Because again, I can understand you want to, if this is the only other season, you want to cramp everything in to try to get everything, all loose ends and stuff tied up. Okay, I get that. I understand that you want to get all the loose ends tied up and everything. But if they end chapter 35, Brave New World, on a cliffhanger, indicating a third season will be coming, then they need to make sure that third season is done correctly and properly and in a way that's not going to bore, that's not going to lose viewers over time before the final episode comes and airs. And again, if it does indicate that, if there is indication that a third season is happening, here's the deal. Here's the major deal breaker. you could have, like I said, you could have easily used this season to slowly build to everything that's revealed here to be revealed in that next season. It would have made more sense because you're slowly building to it, you're hinting at it, you're referencing it. You might be throwing a few Easter eggs in here, maybe a few post-credit scenes here if you want to kind of give people an anticipation of when and where this may happen, which would be probably season 3 if you do a season 3. But they're not. They're not doing that. And the fact that they're cramming everything in, yes, does tell me this could be the only other season of Riverdale, but also tells me that um, I think they realize not a lot of people would probably be into Riverdale for too long. But then again, people still are. My niece still is into it. So, I mean, we just, to me, it's like, to me, it's like, Riverdale, it's still a good series. From what I've read, it's still good. It looks like it's got the potential to finish strong. It really does in the third act of the season. It has that potential to end strong. But I think honestly, if they do a third season, I think they really need to make sure that they keep it true to what made the first season a success and made people want to tune in and want a second season. They need to basically make sure that they stay true to their roots. They just make it a short season and they keep it a seasonal series. Because you know what? People like that kind of stuff. If it's a series that takes characters, beloved characters, and into an environment that they're not used to seeing them in, then they appreciate that more because it's not something you're trying to turn into a regular series. You're trying to make it a special kind of seasonal series that comes on every season or every new year for the next 4 to 5 months. So, or for the first 4 to 5 months of that year. So, but yeah, again, it looks good. It makes me want to tune in and watch the rest of the season, and at least try to catch up as well. But we'll just have to wait and see what they do here. And really, that's all I can say on it, folks. I know this was long, so I do apologize. But thank you all for tuning in live. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in post live after it's been uploaded. Let me know your guys' thoughts on on Riverdale currently, and what your thoughts on it so far are. And do you think maybe they should go back to making it more of a seasonal, if not new, start of the new year kind of series? Or do you like the direction they're going with it right now? Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. And I will talk to you all later.